It can reasonably be inferred from the passage and graphic that if scientists adjusted the coils to reverse the magnetic field, simulating that in the East Atlantic, Cape Verde Islands, the hatchlings would most likely swim in which direction? This is a question which, just like one we saw previously, references the graphic. So, in theory, we'd have to incorporate what this graphic tells us with what we read in the text. Though in this one, we can just actually answer it without reference to the graphic. I don't think the graphic is... we can use the graphic too. Let's do both. Let's use the text and the graphic so we can see how they work. So we're starting with the magnetic field, simulating that in the East Atlantic, but then we're going to reverse it. And we want to know when we do that. When we start with the East Atlantic orientation and we reverse that field, what direction did the turtle swim? A couple pieces of information from the text we need. First, in 1991, he found that the baby started in the opposite direction if he used the coils to reverse the direction of the magnetic field around them. So if you reverse the field, they'll move in the direction opposite the direction they were moving in the first place. What about this East Atlantic thing? So if the field matched that on the East Atlantic near the Cape Verde Islands, the turtles swam southwest. So let's put these two together. If they swim southwest when the field matches that which you would find in the East Atlantic, and you reverse it, they're going to swim, as we saw in the first part, in the reverse direction. So if they're swimming southwest originally, when we reverse it, they're going to swim northeast. And so we look at the choices, and indeed, B would be the answer. Now, if you wanted to use the graphic, you can see the same thing. This graphic shows us the orientation of the turtles in magnetic fields. So if we're looking at the East Atlantic, this is the Cape Verde Islands, they're going to be pointed this way. This is towards, again, the southwest, right? South and west. So if you reverse it, they're going to move in the opposite direction, which is this way, which is the northeast. So whether you read the text, which I think is a little bit easier here, at least more specific, versus you read the graphic, we see that the answer is going to be B. I think another reason why the graphic isn't super obvious is it's not obvious that we can count this as north, east, south, and west, though you definitely can. You don't know that, they don't label that in the graphic itself. So I think using the text here is a little bit better. This question was ranked difficult, really reminds me of an ACT science question. I think they're trying to add a little more scientific knowledge, or at least scientific reasoning to this test, without making a whole new science section. And this is how they're going to do it. So again, if we read carefully, as we found those two cited portions of the text, we'll be able to find the answer. And if we're able to interpret this graph, which I think was, as I mentioned previously, a little challenging without a little background knowledge, knowing how to fill in these cardinal directions, essentially. But yeah, or cardinal or ordinal. Anyway, so a little bit tricky, but if you read the text carefully, leave this one to the end. It could be certainly a tricky question since there's no immediate line reference. Leave it to the end, give it your best shot, and do what you can with it based on what the text says. Not about your assumptions, not about even outside knowledge, but based on what the text, and in this case, the graphic, says.